Now, if you talk to an Australian bushie like this, he'll have you believe that there's kangaroos in the main streets of Sydney. But don't you believe him. Sydney is a big city with a big heart. Sydney has a special kinship with sun and sea and space that gives room to breathe, to have a laugh and let the good times roll. This is one place where an umbrella is more useful against year-round sun than the rain. Where the cops are helpful and the locals actually like tourists. Where wonderful beaches are at your doorstep and the spectre of political instability and violence does not stalk the streets. And the shops are full of quality items. This great sun-bathed city, soaring and spreading away from the world's most beautiful harbour, is a cosmopolitan metropolis of some 4 million people. But it wasn't always like this.
Come on, get on there.
Let me go.
Founded 200 years ago, it was a crude and brutal British penal colony, where survival was a battle of wits with the law. All that remains of this early settlement is the Rocks area, a faithfully restored living piece of Australian history. Here you can absorb the atmosphere of Sydney's colonial beginnings without the redcoats. It's hard to believe that this was once a notorious slum, but there's always someone around who'll tell you about it. Directly across Sydney Cove from the Rocks, seemingly afloat at Bennelong Point, is the Opera House. It rivals the Harbour Bridge as Sydney's best-known landmark. This crowning jewel of the harbour city is secure in history as one of the architectural and engineering masterpieces of the age. Inside its huge white sails, you can rejoice in great opera, ballet, and drama. Marvel at how it stays suspended against the sky. Enjoy its restaurants. Pause for a drink or a snack, or just stroll around a modern wonder of the world. Soaring 1,000 feet above the city is Centre Point Tower. It's a handy place to gauge the vast urban sprawl, spreading 50 miles north, south, and west from the Pacific Ocean, or to look down into the confines of city streets, where new and old jostle for a place in the sun. One of these is Macquarie Street, named after the colony's first enlightened governor. It houses some of the nation's earliest public buildings. Its first Parliament House. The grandly Victorian Sydney Hospital. The infamous Rum Hospital, now the restored Mint Museum. St Stephen's Church, and alongside them, modern legal, medical and banking chambers. Only a change of traffic lights away is St Mary's Cathedral, standing proudly alongside one of Sydney's finest parks. The Art Gallery of New South Wales. In here, you might not like everything you see, but there's a chance you'll find something you like. Whether it's in the fine collection of European old masters, or among the many works of traditional and modern Australian artists. Across from the Art Gallery is the grassy expanse of the Domain and the leafy beauty of the Royal Botanic Gardens. Just stroll around at your leisure and admire the flowers. Maybe enjoy a picnic under the trees, or experience the tropics in the Pyramid Glasshouse. In George Street, the Queen Victoria building was rescued from demolition and restored to its original splendour. Shop to the strains of a string quartet. You won't have your arm twisted to buy in any of Sydney's friendly shops. Quality and variety of shopping is enough to make the most demanding treasure hunter whistle in appreciation. At the other end of town, in the old Haymarket area, if you get up early enough to beat the throng at Paddy's, there's no knowing what you might end up taking home. Here, amongst noisy stall holders, you can find bargains of a different type. And those with time for people watching will find plenty to interest them here. And in the rest of Sydney, with a population as diverse as Sydney's, it's pretty certain you'll bump into somebody from back home before too long. But you might be surprised how they've changed by the time they've made it to the Paddington Village market. Centennial Park, a huge expanse of parkland just a few minutes from the city, commemorates Australia's first 100 years. It acts as a breathing space between the rush and the roar of the city and the sweeping expanse of Bondi Beach to the east. Some people travel from the other side of the world just to swim at Bondi. But for Sydney-siders, it's only 20 minutes from the city by train or bus. Bondi's beachfront style of architecture is not to everybody's taste. So in Sydney, you can choose anything from quaint terrace houses, clifftop retreats, and many other styles. And for visitors, the choice of accommodation is just as diverse, from small family-style motels and apartments to some of the world's top-rated luxury hotels. And when it's time for a break from this high style and formality, it's easy to journey down the harbour to Watson's Bay. Maybe for lunch at Doyle's. Here you can dine on the day's catch of lobster, prawn, crabs, oysters, or fresh fish. For an even more relaxed atmosphere, there's always the neighbourhood beer garden where the locals are always ready for a laugh with new friends. But you don't really need a giant thirst to have a good time, even if it's your wedding day. Of course, not everybody prefers the great outdoors. Drop into one of Sydney's little pubs for a fine ale, an amazing tale, or just to see the practitioners of one of Australia's favourite sports, bending the elbow. And talking of sports, Royal Randwick is one of 4 race courses. Like all Australian courses, bookmakers operate side by side with a government-controlled tote.
Of 5 or 6, but the Cowboy Whiteout is coming at them. Deep Star went to the lead, taken on by the Cowboy, and it's Deep Star taken on by the Cowboy. This pair back it out. Deep Star is giving plenty. Copperwing down to the inside, but Deep Star's clear, and Deep Star has won.
Either way, winners can smile and losers can please themselves. If you're more a doer than a watcher, Sydney has 90 golf courses. And at many of them, you needn't be a club member to play. Visitors can simply turn up for a game. And style? Well, that isn't all that important either. Facilities are first class, and green fees are low. But there could be a search and rescue charge for getting you out of some bunkers. Sydney's historic links ensure that peculiar English games like cricket continue to thrive. But indeed, if it's any sport, you'll find it played somewhere, from local club level to the highest international standard. And when it comes to more gentlemanly pursuits, an afternoon on the bowling green can still bring on that winning smile. With such an infinite variety of freely available waterways, it's no wonder Sydney is a sailor's paradise. Whether it's the spectacle of the 18-footers streaking across the harbour, and sometimes coming to grief, the more sedate family sailors or lavish motor cruisers, the harbour becomes a kaleidoscope of colour and movement. Weekends in particular are when the harbour teems with every conceivable type of sail and powerboat. And if you know where to look, the harbour will even give you a beach to call your own. What is now Sydney's harbour playground once acted as a natural barrier against development northwards, until the famous coat hanger was built over 50 years ago as the main link to the northern suburbs. And on the North Shore is Taronga Park, one of the world's finest zoos. While you look at the animals look at the view. The other commuter link for Sydney siders is the harbour ferry system. And a trip to Manly by ferry is a traditional weekend outing. It's changed little since times when old wooden ferries sought to entice passengers with the slogan, Manly, 7 miles from Sydney and 1,000 miles from care. Although it's very much a suburb of Sydney these days, Manly is a self-contained holiday resort with a flavour and style all of its own. A bit of a carnival town, perhaps. Every Sydney beach is well guarded by volunteer surf lifesavers, who maintain their fitness and skills through frequent competition in surf carnivals, although uninitiated spectators might find these contain strange rituals.
Please make your way to the mastering area as soon as possible. This is your
first and final call for all single three-race finals to report in out the marshal.
Ah, Sydney Beach. The only place to be on a summer's day. Mind you, at times a certain skill is needed to hot-foot it down to the water. While some go to great lengths to avoid sunburn, others just don't care. However, toasting your toes, or other parts of your body, on even the loveliest of Sydney beaches can work up an appetite. So to get away from the crowds, yet at the same time savour the splendours of the northern beaches, take a seaplane flight to Pittwater. From Rose Bay in the harbour, these flights wing like a seabird up the coast, past cliff and wooded headland, over island and spreading sand. Just 20 minutes later, skimming to rest on the peaceful Hawkesbury River. What an arrival. And then to enjoy lunch overlooking the bushland expanse of water, even larger and bluer than Sydney Harbour itself. Pittwater and Broken Bay, which form part of this great estuary, regarded as some of Australia's finest boating and fishing waters. Cruises and houseboats are a popular way of exploring the Hawkesbury in a more leisurely fashion. They provide access to real, unspoiled Australian bushland, densely covered valleys and rocky outcrops, preserved as the vast Ku-ring-gai National Park. Some trails lead off through the bush from the shoreline, but mostly it's untouched by man and time, and all less than 1 hour's drive from the heart of the city. The one major road through the park's hundreds of square miles of natural ruggedness gives the traveller a good idea of the scene which greeted the first European arrivals in Sydney 200 years ago. Within the park, you'll find abundant examples of protected wildflowers, unique Australian animals, and well-preserved Aboriginal rock carvings. like a personal introduction to some of Sydney's more unusual characters, there are several wildlife parks where this can be arranged. In earlier times, the European settlers on the coast often found Sydney's summer heat oppressive and would escape to the cool heights of the Blue Mountains, some 60 miles inland. Still today, people come to this area to enjoy the fresh mountain air and to travel back in time to a gracious period in Australian history. This beautiful old Victorian house, set in spectacular grounds, was built as a summer residence for colonial governors. And is just one of the many places in the region where casual callers can drop in for lunch or afternoon tea. No wonder many decide to stay on for a few relaxing days and to explore the vastness of the Blue Mountains. These awesome works of nature will always make a mockery of man's puny undertakings. And a trip in the mountains certainly sharpens the appetite for a night on the town when you get back to Sydney. A memorable way to enjoy the harbour at night is dinner aboard a cruising restaurant, with the city's myriad lights reflecting in the water to provide a romantic backdrop. Sydney is a food lover's paradise, with restaurants embracing almost every type of cuisine known to man. Some even provide original forms of entertainment. No, this is not an Aussie barbecue, but a Japanese teppanyaki house, where the chef's performance can be as interesting as the food. For a real fun evening, maybe you'd prefer a Greek taverna, where the singing waiter can be encouraged to dance by a plate full of tips. Sydney's Chinatown is reputedly the largest and most diverse outside of Asia. And if you're still hungry, here you can find every regional style of Chinese cooking. And if you want to bop on into the night, Sydney's got it. Sydney offers you extremes and entertainment. Maybe chancing your arm on the poker machines at one of the hundreds of licensed clubs. Or a night at the theatre. And then there's King's Cross, called Sin City by some. It's been known to generations of travellers the world over as a bohemian quarter of bars, cafes, nightclubs, and dubious addresses where anything goes.
Come and have a look, buddy. 1 minute at a time, take inside, I'll show you.
Up here, it's a night-long parade of colour and sound, glamour and gloss. Yet there comes a time each day when even the traffic in Darlinghurst Road seems sleepy-eyed. And when all is said and done, and the cameras have taken their last holiday snapshot, there remains the harbour, the very spirit of Sydney.